We got to check in with Joe diGenova with this latest story about Robert Mueller, apparently delivering his report as early as next week. And also Andrew McCabe and his behavior. Here's a little bit from him yesterday on Anderson Cooper.
Are there other things that haven't been made public at this point that contributed to the opening of the investigation into the president?
I'm not so sure that there are things that haven't been made public, but I think the important thing is to think about, put yourself back in May of 2017 in the position of the investigators, right, the investigative team, and the things that are really standing out for them go back as far as the early fall when we're conducting the investigation. From the very beginning, the president is referring to the investigation and our efforts, at least from the beginning of 2017, as a witch hunt.
Joe diGenova, is it me or is this Andrew McCabe and all the higher-ups at the Justice Department saying the fact that Mr. Trump behaved like an innocent man, outraged that he would be investigated, and these investigations are being leaked to the media to damage him, the fact that he proclaimed his innocence and condemned the investigation was the reason we thought he should be investigated? That's Spanish Inquisition stuff.
Larry, what you are hearing is the mindset of a John Wilkes Booth. This is how people justified assassinating Lincoln. They all sat around and decided that he was the evil person, and so they killed Lincoln at Ford's Theater. What Mr. McCabe and others did was thematically the same thing. They decided to decapitate a president of the United States. Instead of shooting him in Ford's Theater, they shot him through the criminal process. This was a political assassination. It was, and just think about this. We would have never known about any of this had Hillary Clinton won.
Yeah.
I say that McCabe sounds like John Wilkes Booth because he does. That sickness that you saw last night with him being interviewed by my favorite Gay Vanderbilt, Anderson Cooper. I mean, what I find so remarkable about all of this is that they are interviewing him seriously, and he is mocking them. He is mocking them not by he doesn't know he's mocking them.
Yeah, he doesn't. Right, unwittingly mocking them.
Every one of these people who had Scott Pelley's interview was a disgrace to the memory of Edward R. Murrow.
Yeah.
I mean, that interview was like he wanted to have sex with him, and he couldn't wait till the interview was over.
Have you ever seen a major journalist less prepared for such an important exchange of information?
Tell me, Mr. McCabe. Pelley sometimes sounds like Richard Nixon. Have you ever noticed it? It's really strange.
Now that you mention it, I suppose. Joe diGenova is our guest. Let's swing it back to this report now we're hearing from CNN over the last hour that the Mueller report could come out as early as next week. Will we see this report? Should we see this report if there's no more criminal findings? I mean, in my opinion, it seems to me that a prosecutor, an investigator on behalf of the federal government, they do their talking when they bring an indictment. Otherwise, why should we even know the rest of this information?
Well, we shouldn't. And the departmental regulations, which were set up after the independent counsel statute was allowed to lapse and not be after Clinton had been investigated with, I think, 6 or 7 independent counsels, is a mistake. The special counsel is a mistake. It shouldn't exist. And if it's going to exist, there should be no requirement for any report of any kind to anybody. The fact that people are public figures or government figures and they need to be investigated should not change the concepts of due process in the Fifth Amendment. They should apply to everyone all the time the same. There is no report. For example, let's say this guy, Smollett, is not charged with anything. Should there be a public report about why he wasn't charged? The answer is no. There shouldn't be. Whether he's a famous person or not. He's famous now because he made himself. Nobody knew who the hell he was before he faked all this crap. At any rate, the issue is, of what value are reports about public figures? The answer is they ruin people. They're useless. They're stupid. And they fly in the face of every concept of traditional justice at the Department of Justice. I think these rules are stupid. If you want to have a special counsel because there's a conflict of interest in the department, either personal, political, or financial, fine. Appoint somebody of character and somebody who doesn't need to make a name for himself. And then you say, when you're done, you either charge people or you shut up and go home, just like every other prosecutor in the United States is supposed to do.
Is there any hope that the Mueller report is the end of the Russian collusion hoax? Or are you assuming, as I am, that Adam Schiff will take this up and do his own investigation?
Well, I don't have any doubt that Schiff, who is a total phony and a fraud, who has lied repeatedly from the beginning of this investigation and is an embarrassment to the state of California, although that state continually seems to be almost incapable of being embarrassed by anything.
The bar continues to be
How's that high-speed train working for you?
Right.
Here's the thing. The end of this investigation, it will go on, but here's what's going to happen. Mr. McCabe, by virtue of his confession, has guaranteed that there are now going to be civil suits filed by a number of people against him, against Comey, against Page, against Sally Yates, against Loretta Lynch, and a whole bunch of John Carlin, the Assistant Attorney General, because the FISA court has already found that there were 4 years of illegal spying by 3 contractors who work for the FBI who illegally leaked FISA information to the press. The FISA court has already found that. That information is going to go into civil suits, and it's going to make the numbers in the Sandman suit at the Washington Post look like a tip.
We got to leave it there. Joe diGenova, this is why you're one of our favorites. Thank you so much for joining us on a moment's notice on this breaking story about the Mueller report. Something tells me what Joe just said in that interview, it might raise some eyebrows. It'll make some news.
Well, I think Andrew McCabe has made a fool out of himself over the last couple of days, and he really looks to me like sort of a poor man's J. Edgar Hoover. I think he's a disaster. And what he was trying to do was terrible, and he was caught. I'm very proud to say we caught him. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Joe diGenova. So McCabe and the conspirators are like John Wilkes Booth in a political assassination. And, oh, by the way, look for huge lawsuits against the federal government from innocent Americans who were caught up in the abuse of FISA and these investigations. Those are 2 pretty big headlines. Thank you, Joe diGenova. I'm pretty sure that'll make some waves. From WMA.